All right, let's get started. It is my pleasure to introduce you to Robin Morgan, who is also on the call. Robin Morgan is the Intranet Project Lead at Capital Power. He's spent 16 years designing and implementing intranets for small to large organizations. Specializing in information architecture and user experience, Robin is very passionate about helping companies realize the potential of their internet investments. Using a data-centered approach, which I've seen him use to guide decision-making, Robin has helped leading organizations implement intranets that provide proven business value. He recently led the implementation of Capital Power's Internet redesign, wherein the team significantly decreased internet maintenance costs, and he is happy to be here today to share all about his experience with you. Just a little bit about Dynamic Owl, Bonsai Intranet, the company who is sponsoring this webinar. We offer SharePoint consulting services and an out-of-the-box intranet. We're Microsoft Gold partners and offer end-to-end implementations for SharePoint. We've got 3 Microsoft SharePoint MVPs on staff and are very well known for our expertise and reputation in the industry. We work with some really amazing clients like Capital Power. In the past 2 years, we've done over 45 implementations of Bonzai. And today, we're proud to say that over 300,000 users use Bonsai every day. Some of our favorite clients are Slater & Gordon, Expedia, Boeing, Capital Power, of course, and the Super Coastal Health. In the past year, Bonsai has been rated the highest intranet in North America by Clearbox Consulting. Across the board, we did really well for news publishing, branding, look and feel, two-way communications, mobile access, analytics, transactions, and a wildcard, which is our employee directories. In the reviewers' view, Bonsai was actually the best standard design among all products in the market. And in this report, which we can provide a discount if you're interested, we were rated amongst 26 other competitors. So today's agenda, Robin is going to introduce the 7 internet challenges that they overcame in their internet redesign and provide a solution, provide examples of how he overcame these challenges. And then at the end, we've left lots of time for questions and answers for anyone out there who are in similar positions to Robin and are looking to pick his brain. This webinar is interactive, so I'm going to start off with a poll question to see where everyone is at. I'll launch the poll for you now. Do you believe your internet environment is effective? Yes or no? We know that some people think maybe, but generally we hope you're here because you have many challenges to address. So it looked like 65% of you voted. I'll leave it open for a few more seconds. Great. I'll close the poll and share the results. 35% of you think your internet environment is effective. Awesome. I'm assuming you're here to learn how to make it even better. And 65% of you believe that no, your internet is not effective. And you're not alone. Many people believe this. So we're happy to provide some interesting insight for you today. Move over to the next question. See. What internet challenges need to be addressed to make your internet more effective? If there's others, please feel free to answer them in the chat box. So would you like to provide an internet that provides ease of use for content authors, editors, and general users? Do you need a proper governance plan that is actually followed through with? Are you looking to reduce costs to keep your internet updated and maintained properly? What about mobile responsiveness? Can your employees access your internet from their phone and download documents? And then search that actually works is a very typical one. Great, so it looks like the majority of you have voted. I'll close those results and share them with you. 80% of the audience today is wanting to overcome the challenges of ease of use. Very, very common, especially if you're using a SharePoint intranet that's been custom built. 75% of you are wanting some insight into a proper governance plan and how to get employees to follow through with it. 50% of you are looking to reduce costs to keep your internet updated and fresh. And 70% of you are looking for mobile responsiveness for access anytime, anywhere. And 65% of you are looking for search that actually works. Lucky for you, Robin has overcome all of these challenges for Capital Power, so he is happy to share his learnings with you today. And it is my pleasure to now turn it over to Robin, who's going to share the 7 common internet challenges and how he overcame them. Robin, I'm just going to give you control of the dashboard now.
All right.
There you go. Take it away, Robin.
I am not seeing the dashboard.
Are you able to, oh, okay. Apologies, everybody. Can you see?
I'm still seeing the poll question results.
Oh, okay. Got it. Let's hide those.
All right.
Great. There we go.
There we go.
Sorry, everybody. Are you able to switch the slides there, Robin?
No, not switching.
Okay, let me give you presenter.
Okay.
Oh, there you go. What if I change the slides for you? Does that work?
Sure.
Okay, perfect.
Okay,
Thank you for bearing with us.
Thank you, John. All right. So we'll jump right in here because we don't have a lot of time. So the first of our 7 challenges was the inflexibility and costly to manage. So I'll talk about inflexibility first. Here at Capital Power, our previous intranet, which had been built on SP 2010, had been a custom build. So the issue that they faced was all of the people that had been part of that custom build project were no longer with the organization. The intranet was now owned by the communications department. They had sort of inherited this custom designed intranet. They were responsible and accountable for it, but they didn't really have any way to change it and or improve it. So when this project kicked off and we sat down to look at making changes and improving it, the number one requirement for the communications department was to ensure that whatever we came up with, whatever we built, didn't have to be managed by anybody with any technical abilities. So that didn't just mean from a developer perspective. They didn't want anyone to have to know even CSS, JavaScript, or HTML in order to be able to manage the site, because they never wanted to be caught in that situation again where they own this intranet and they weren't able to improve it, right? They really, for probably a year, close to 2 years, were essentially just trying to keep the lights on, but weren't really able to take it anywhere, and they didn't want to end up in that position again. So the inflexibility of a custom build was definitely a challenge that they wanted to overcome. And the second was, of course, cost. It's always cost. Next slide, please.
There you go, Robin.
Great. Thanks, Sean. So these aren't our actual figures from the project, but it is sort of ballpark. Really, we were looking at 3 sort of ideas around a new intranet. The first option we were looking at was moving completely off of SharePoint platform. So we were looking at content management systems that had some intranet functionality or capabilities that were sort of integrated into a package, almost like web parts, so that we wouldn't have to custom build anything on it. So we looked at a completely different platform. Then the second option was SharePoint with custom display templates that would be responsive, and then we would plug in pre-built web parts for all of the functionality that we wanted on the intranet that wasn't delivered with SharePoint out of the box. And then the third, which when we found it was Bonsai, or the idea of the platform that sits completely on top of SharePoint and functions more like a traditional CMS. The first idea of option of getting completely off the platform didn't last very long. It was by far the most expensive option. So that went away rather quickly. And then we got left with this idea of, well, can we get somebody in to help us develop custom display templates, then plug in web parts for the pieces that we don't want to build. And really what you're looking at here is sort of a chart to demonstrate costs over 5 years, right? So you've got, with a custom build, you've got a sort of a larger upfront cost. But technically, and this may change now that there's cloud solutions for intranets, but this idea that over a 5-year span, if you look at how SharePoint is rolled out back to 2003, sort of every 3 to 5 years, the latest version is released, and it sort of puts you in redesign or design mode over again. So really the idea of this chart was just to demonstrate that you've got, if you're going with some sort of custom build in SharePoint, you've got your upfront costs right now, the redesign, but typically within a 5-year span, you're looking at another redesign. So it's that year 4 piece that I was sort of trying to bring to the surface, just to demonstrate that, you know, you're looking at a cost right now, but over 5 years, you're probably going to get hit with another big one. And then the contingency money is year 2 and 3 and 5, because with any sort of custom build, then the other thing you need to think about is, well, if somebody comes along next year and they want something and you haven't considered that as part of your initial build because it didn't exist yet, you need to have the money to go back typically to somebody externally to help you with that piece that you now need to include on your intranet. Next slide, please.
There you go.
Thank you. So this is where we landed with Bonsai, and I mean, this was a huge part of the decision with our intranet. So again, these aren't our actual numbers, but they are pretty close. And what they show is over 5 years, essentially, you're paying the same licensing fee, and you don't have that sort of year 4, year 5 redesign piece. So when we looked at the math, it was approximately a 50% decrease in the cost of an intranet over 5 years. The other thing to consider too with this is, what I like about the Bonsai idea is that it's consistently improving over time. So with most of the organizations I've worked with, a lot of times the intranet team may also be the internet team. So they work on a project, let's say like an intranet redesign, and then 2 weeks or a month after launch, they move on to the next project. Typically, that intranet will start to degrade because you can't make it a priority all the time. Those people have moved on to other projects. What I liked about Bonzai is, yeah, you're paying your yearly licensing fee, but as they continue to improve the product, your intranet continues to improve, and you're not doing any of that work. You're just getting it as part of the fee. So that was another nice thing. And so really when it came down to, can somebody manage it without having any technical abilities and then cost, we were probably halfway through the decision-making process just after those two aspects. Next slide, please.
Great. Thank you, Robin.
All right. Thanks, Sean. So the second challenge, of course, is responsive design. So we had two aspects to this project that was a little bit complex. One was just access. So with our previous intranet, you needed to log in third-party software. You actually had to log into the network in order to get to the intranet. So that was a nice thing, moving to the cloud. So we're using the Office 365 version of Bonsai, which means I can go to a browser and log into the intranet. I don't need to install third-party software on my computer to remote into the intranet. And then, of course, everything is responsive. So at the end of this presentation, I'll let you have a look at Capital Power's intranet, and I'll show you how some of the templates work. But yeah, everything sort of stacks the way you would expect. Next. And I'll show
this is just a slide here. Yeah, so Robin will show this later. Great. So the third challenge was your overcrowded homepage, Robin.
Yeah, so the overcrowded homepage. So again, because we had this custom developed homepage, really all we were doing was sort of showing the web part displays that come sort of out of the box in SharePoint with the old intranet. So there wasn't a real sense of priority. Another thing that we liked about the Bonsai design, the test I always use is if you take your homepage, say on a full sheet of paper, and step back sort of 20 feet, the things that pop typically are the things that the eye is drawn to on a page, like a homepage. So if you look at the homepage now for the Capital Power Intranet, the things that really pop are the navigation, so the search in the top nav, which is great. That's how people find things, of course. Then the news item right below, which is sort of like the carousel feature, which is great from a communication standpoint because that's what the communications folks think that all employees should be able to see and should be paying attention to. And then really closer to the bottom, the classifieds are the other one that kind of pop, which, as anyone who has an intranet knows, classifieds or the marketplace is extremely important to employees. All right, next.
Great. So next we'll jump into internet search engines. And as we learned at the beginning, a lot of you cannot rely on yours. There you go, Robin.
All right, thanks, Sean. So with search, a couple things that we did. First of all, we have a team site environment here and then the intranet. And when we went to the cloud, the team site stayed on-premise for now. The idea is actually the migration now has begun to the cloud, but the intranet was really the pilot project. So there was a break. So with the new intranet, the search wasn't tied to the team sites. So that meant all the results you got back were actual content on the intranet. One of the things we had heard from employees before was how hard it was to find what they were looking for just because of the amount of information that was being pulled in with all of that team site content as well. So there was that break. Another nice thing, and this is a Bonzai feature, is you have the ability to set up more segmented searches. So one thing with Capital Power's intranet is it's very news and announcement heavy. So let's say there's 650 to 700 pages on the intranet total. About half of that would be news and announcement content. So what we found is after a couple months, anyone doing a search a lot of time would get back a lot of this news and announcement content, which may or may not have been what they were looking for. So one of the things we could do with Bonsai was build a news and announcement specific search in that section of the site where you could just drop the SharePoint web parts on the page and configure them. So that meant that people searching the intranet for content using global search would still get back all the actual information of the site, but we could then custom build a news and announcement search in that section specifically to bring back the news and announcements information. All right.
Great, thanks, Robin. So here's just an example of Capital Power's new search, and Robin will go over this in a demo he does later. The next item is missing team sites and governance plans.
Right. So another challenge, the fifth challenge was governance from the intranet perspective, but also from the team sites. So for a long time, I think what had happened here was they were sort of in the mode of just keeping the lights on. So information services managed the team site environment, and the communications team managed the intranet. And depending, so if I'm a department and I needed a site, if I went to IS at one point, typically I probably got a team site, and if I went to the communications team, I got an intranet site. And I think it was because nobody was sort of looking at from an enterprise level. Nobody was looking at how these two pieces work together and the best place for information all the time. So we ended up at the time of this project with a team site environment that was massive and an intranet that was actually quite small. So one of the things we're looking at now is going back and meeting with departments and going through team sites to figure out if there's information that should be shared via the intranet, where it might be a better vehicle than what is on team sites. And then from the perspective of content on the intranet, we decided not to migrate any content as is from the old intranet to the new. So we took every piece of information on the intranet, put that into spreadsheets, assigned who we thought the owner of that information was. Then we went and sat down with every owner, every department, went through the spreadsheet, figured out what information could stay, could go, needed to be updated, figured out if we had the right owners or, in fact, if those had to change. Then we went through all of that content before we even started to put it into the new site. And then once we got sign-off, we actually rewrote the entire site, which wasn't that big. For Capital Power, with the news and everything that we took over, I think we did 450 pages in 3 months between two of us. So it was busy, but it wasn't horrible. And the nice thing was the test environment was production. So essentially, we could build those pages, we could send it to the owners for review, and once it was approved, really all the heavy lifting was done. Then we just had to sort of flip the switch from the old intranet to the new. Another piece would be permissions. So with the old Capital Power intranet, there were a lot of different groups, and managing permissions was a ton of work. So we changed it to just having 2 groups. One that is a very secure group, which is essentially made up of HR folks, where they have access to stuff that is being managed by security. And then we have everybody else. So everybody who's an editor has been lumped into one group, and we just manage that one group, and it's made life 100 times easier. All right.
Amazing. Thanks, Robin. Just to give people perspective, that's still a lot of work, but some companies that we've spoken to are migrating 12,000 pages over. So it depends on where you're at. But it sounds like Capital Power had a bit of an easier time with this part. Thank you,
and you know what, Sean, that's a very good point. And that was sort of we knew we were in sort of a unique position because we didn't have a ton of content. So it was the perfect opportunity. If we were going to write content, now was the time, because there was already a project. Because that's one of those things that I think a lot of companies would love to do, but then once the day-to-day sort of ramps up, that stuff gets put down to the bottom of the priority list. So we really saw it as sort of like the perfect opportunity. If we're doing a redesign anyways, let's revisit all of the information, all the content that we have.
Absolutely. That's amazing.
And then inconsistent user experience. And this really comes down to I think the editing features that are available in Bonsai. So again, with our custom intranet, how news was published were different than how announcements and events were published. Everything sort of had a different look and feel and functionality for publishing. So training was incredibly difficult because you were training the same people how to do 4 different functions in 4 different ways, and then expecting them to remember that 2 or 3 weeks later when they go to do edits for the first time. So it was incredibly difficult. The nice thing definitely about Bonzai is it doesn't matter if it's a news item or just a generic content page or even event. Although the functionality may change, the whole look and feel of the panel when you're editing information, and I'll show you this too behind the scenes, is always consistent. So although the fields may change a bit, you're always looking at the same interface. So I think editors sort of get comfortable with the fact that they're always looking at the same thing, and it's not scary because everything works and functions differently based on what you're doing and where on the site. So that's been really great.
Great. Thanks, Robin. We'll move on to the 7th challenge, and that is outdated design.
Outdated design. So yeah, I think I've kind of covered this just in with the custom build. There was really not a lot that could be done with the design post-launch. Anything that wasn't part of that build, we had to go back to an external to help put together. We technically don't have anyone in-house that is technical in terms of helping design display templates. And between two of us, we've been able to build with Bonsai any sort of look and feel aspects that we need. So far, it's been fantastic for that.
Great. So Robin, maybe we'll just open up to the audience if anyone has any questions about the content we've presented thus far. If not, we will hand it over for a live demo. So if you look just in the GoToWebinar pane on the right-hand side of your screen, you'll be able to ask questions in there. So attendees, please, now's the time to ask Robin if you have any questions about the content he presented or Intranet redesign projects in general. All right, so we have a question here from Luke. Who was on the steering committee, Robin, when you launched or when the project got kicked off?
So there is, how did it work? So there's a steering committee for SharePoint at an enterprise level that's made up of senior folks within all of the business units. That ultimately was it in terms of who we had to take decisions to.
Right. So I guess he's wondering, Luke's wondering in particular, was it HR, marketing, internal comm? I know you mentioned internal comm in particular, but what specific business unit? Yeah.
All of the business units would have been represented.
Got it.
Yeah, so it wouldn't have been broken down by just communications and HR. It was everybody, everybody that's ultimately had content both in the TeamSite environment and on the intranet would have been part of that committee.
Great. Hope that answers your question, Luke. We have another one here from Layla. How did you approach your information architecture? We have a very traditional hierarchical organization and have an org chart based on IA. How do you combat the my team versus department debate that needs to be represented in the IA? So for example, do you deal with mobile consumptions and apps and also, okay, we'll answer the first question, Layla, and then we'll go on to the second one. So Robin, do you have any insight into how to overcome IA for my team/department?
So our approach was to sort of rely on the data. Yeah, that's always sort of the debate. So what we did was we did a ton of tree testing where we would put together an IA and we would test it with, I think, 20 to 30 individuals, and then we would go back and we would refine it some more and go back. I think we did that with close to 100 people in total over the course of a couple weeks. And that was to sort of determine all of our sort of mega menu structure and how we were going to put it together. And then we put all of that information went to the steering committee, and then we put that out in communications through our sort of weekly newsletter and shared all of our findings. And then as we met with each group about their content, we went through the data and the discoveries as part of all of those meetings as well, just to get buy-in from everybody about the whole idea of moving more to a task-based structure as opposed to a department-based structure. And it was funny because it's always been sort of the ongoing debate, but I don't know if it's that people are just more in tune with how intranets are structured now, but it seemed like much less of a battle this time than it usually is.
Yeah, Layla, I'll just reiterate what Robin says. Every single client we work with deals with this, and the tree testing, which is a data-centered approach, helps showcase to people how intuitively where the users will actually be able to find things, and this is something that Bonsai consulting takes you through. So we have another question here from Luke. Do you incorporate any navigational access to often used application software, or was it purely content?
Sorry, question again?
So I think Luke's asking if there's any navigational access to frequently used application software. So Robin will actually be able to show you this in the demo environment, but there is a quick link thing right on the homepage, right?
You got it.
Great. So I think this is a good segue to transition over to Capital Power's internet environment. So Robin, I'm just going to give you presenter control. Do you have the screen open right now?
Yes.
Awesome. So Robin, you are now the presenter and we'll be able to show everyone Capital Power's beautiful internet.
All right. Can you see my screen now, Sean?
Not quite. I think it's just in the transition of going over. It takes a few moments. Bear with us, everyone. Thank you.
And other than that, I would say
Robin, does a pop-up come over for you?
I do. I've got a pop-up screen, but nothing displaying in it, which is never a good sign.
It should ask you if you want to take control.
Yeah, no, there's not. That is not showing up.
All right. We'll go to webinar. One moment, everyone. Oh, goodness. It does not want to.
Oh.
Oh, there we go.
I almost had something. There we go. Oh. Okay.
There we go. Okay, perfect. I think we are in business.
We're back?
We are back. There you go, everybody. Whew.
All right. All right, so as you can see, it's very Bonsai-centric in terms of design. Again, we didn't put our navigation together by department. We put it together, essentially it's task-based, so under our mega menus, it's sort of based on how people think about the information here, based on how it relates to their job. So you've got working here, things I need in order to do my job, pay and benefits, always a hot ticket with employees. How much time do I have off and when do I get paid next? Career, so this is mostly training and development, career planning, performance review information, and then the sort of big picture information about the company, news and events, giving back to the community, that sort of thing. And across the top, we have our feature carousel here. News and announcements are targeted and security trimmed. So we can set by job role and location what displays both in the picture area, but then as these ones below too can also be targeted and security trimmed. This answers the question about the links to applications. This is used an insane amount. We didn't love the idea of having it be the first thing you see when you land on the homepage from a design perspective, but we couldn't not display it as prominently as we did, just because this is the stuff people visit most often. I think on average we have 17,000 clicks of the links in this quick links area. So again, these are links to applications that are not part of the intranet. All of these will take you to somewhere else, and really a lot of these are sort of the business-based apps. This is using the Bonsai Spotlight feature, the Milestone Achievement Awards. So these are awards that are given to employees based on how long they've been with the organization. And the idea was to build something as part of the intranet launch that focused on people, because we know anything that's sort of people-based within an organization will get a ton of traction and a ton of usage. So I'll show you what this looks like when you go here. So here are all of the milestones that we've put in since launch. And then here's what an actual page looks like. Some of them, there have been a ton of comments, which is fantastic. Yeah, people love seeing and learning about the people they work with. Then we also use targeting and security trimming for the important dates and upcoming events. So all of this can be set based on location and job role. And then, of course, at the bottom, we have the marketplace.
Neat. Robin, what would you say the most accessed section of your website is?
The most accessed section since launch has been, of course, marketplace.
Yeah.
Right?
I was surprised to find this, but it makes sense.
I know. Marketplace and weather. The other thing that always blows my mind is weather. So, yeah, marketplace definitely gets the most. And then the milestone achievements have actually bubbled to the top. So they're number 2 since launch, and that's been consistent. So we publish them. We publish about 6 to 9 a month.
Cool. Would you be able to show us an example of a piece of content that would be targeted to 2 separate employees based on their geographic location?
That would be, let me see. If I pulled it up, but I might have to dig a bit to find something. Yeah.
Oh, good. So
actually,
essentially you target, okay.
Yeah. I'll show security trimming here. So the pay and benefits section, because we have employees in both Canada and the US, so Canadian employees can't see US information and vice versa. So with this page, what we did is we set up duplicate web parts and then set the security on the web part. So I see 2 because, of course, I have the access. But as a US employee, you would just see the links to the ones you have access to. And that's for all of these components, all of these web parts.
Interesting. Do you mind pulling up? I found the STP Calculator super interesting when I was going through your calculator. So this is a custom application that your team was able to develop with Bonzai, right? Or within Bonzai?
Yeah, so this is essentially done. So what this gives you is, this allows you to look at the targets that were set by the company, and you can put in your annualized base pay, what you think your target incentive rate is going to be, and then you can use these sliders to help determine or to try and figure out what your bonus is going to be for this year. And this is something that it starts in about November, and by January or February, it will be the most viewed page on the site. And I think people just like to mess with it to see what the different options could be.
Absolutely. Robin, I'm just going to open up the questions for a second. It looks like there's a few people, so maybe we'll take a quick question break.
Okay.
So we have a question here from Laura who's wondering what is the marketplace. So perhaps you can go into that section to just describe a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's, I was going to say similar to Kijiji, but I don't know where these people are viewing it from. So the marketplace is like a classified ad site. So people can post the things they are buying and they want to, things they're looking for, things they're selling. We do allow people to post events in here that are maybe not company related, but they still want people to have that information. So here's an example of a post from Mini Cooper.
So this is, Laura, this is all private and unique to the organization. So it's for people or employees to share events or things that they want to sell or potentially acquire. We have what I've seen in other client environments is employees getting engaged with one another outside of work hours. So I can't remember what company it was now, but one of the employees was a yoga instructor. So she offered yoga classes at the park across the street during lunch break. So we thought that was a really neat example of employees building relationships with people that they might otherwise not have internally.
Nice.
And then we have another question here from Nicole. How can you tell what is the most visited page? And Nicole, this is actually Google Analytics, which can be hooked up to the internet, and Robin can maybe share a little bit more information on that.
Yeah. Again, one thing that was way better about using Bonsai than our custom intranet solution was that everything publishes as an ASP page, which means for something like Google Analytics to work, it's fantastic because it's sort of reading a file system. So the data you get is actually very good. So yeah, when we set this up, I think the Google code was put in the master. Yeah, it is in the master page. But again, that sort of section of Google Analytics code, and we can read everything that's happening on this site. The analytics are great, just because everything publishes as a page.
Great. Robin, do you maybe want to walk everyone through the editing and publishing process?
Yeah. So again, back to the consistency with how things look. I'll go pick a page here.
No problem, Nicole. And I just want to welcome anyone to ask questions as they arise for you. I'm monitoring it now, so we can answer them right away.
So when I was talking about that consistent look and feel as an editor, this is sort of what I was referring to. So the fields may change based on the template you're using, being like a generic page template versus an announcement template or news template. So the boxes may change, but this interface, this sort of tabbed interface with the features along the top, is always consistent. So you'll always have a metadata tab, and then you always have your content tab, which you can edit straight here using your ribbon, or you still have access to HTML if you want to go there. Here's where you would set your targeting options. So if we wanted to display information on that homepage only based on location, we could set that here. So I can pick my country, and then this can be managed using the term store. So all the metadata options. Related links are links on the right side of the page. I'll show you that when we come out of here. And then page options is the ability to turn on the comments, the likes, the contacts. So all the information that sort of runs down the right side of the page can be toggled on and off through this tab.
Great, thanks, Robin.
And it's the pieces that you see over here typically. Yeah.
Mhm. And how would, say, the author of that page, corporate communications, how would they receive that feedback that someone submits? Would it go directly to their email?
So that is one centralized list, and then we just have alerts set to send to 2 of us every time we receive that feedback.
Got it. Great. And we have another question here from Nicole, or sorry, Brian or Bill. Are access and permissions managed via Active Directory? So how do you manage those permissions, Robin?
Yes, it's all done with AD groups, and then we just set those on the site. But yes, it's all Active Directory.
And Nicole is also wondering, can you completely remove the actions to make more space on the page? So I guess I think
good
Nicole
question.
Yeah.
So I think the share always shows up, but everything else can be shut off, and no, you can't make that whole column disappear.
Just because
that
of
being
the page
said, you
template.
could use it. Yeah, but you could use a different display template. And maybe
Nicole,
I can show that too here.
Yeah.
Here, let's see. I can't remember if there's one that's full column, but if I go to page layouts here, these are all of the Bonsai templates in terms of layout. So actually,
Nicole,
if you pick this. So yes, you can't remove that column if it's part of that template, but you can select a different template.
Great. Thanks, Robin.
Yeah.
So we have another question here from Luke. Have you integrated social media content in any way, i.e. workplace, other?
We haven't done anything with social outside of turning on what's available and through Bonsai. So really commenting and sharing and liking, that's typically all we're doing.
But in terms of social media, Luke, I have seen some companies embed company Twitter feeds, company Facebook feeds, and Instagram feeds onto the homepage of their Bonsai Intranet. And then we have another question here from Adrian. Is there any sort of, you might also like, recommendation engine in the sidebar on classifications? Robin, maybe you can go through one of the directories or the search engine options for people.
Okay. So here's what our directories look like. So this is all of our facility locations.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Would you also mind showing the employee directory?
We are not using the Bonsai employee directory yet.
Okay, not yet.
Yeah, we had Oracle in place before, and because the IS team wasn't going ahead with any of the sort of Delve stuff at the time that we launched, we decided to stay with Oracle and then think about it longer term as part of the bigger initiative of what are we going to do with all of the other Office 365 products.
Got it. To answer your question there, Adrian, there's not necessarily a recommendation search engine like Google, but if you were to say, it's not on this screen here, but we can do a separate demo for Bonsai with you if you like. But you can say in the employee directory, give me all employees who speak Spanish and work in the U.S. And it will provide everyone for you, and maybe people that slightly fall into that category. And then in addition, in the documents directory, I'm not too sure if Robin can pull that up because it's sensitive information, but if you type in a certain document, all different types of content related to that specific keyword will show up for you. So, oh, there we go. Thank you, Robin.
Yeah.
So there's sort of a type ahead search that gives you different examples of documents or presentations that have to do with payroll. Great. So it looks like we're almost nearing the end of our scheduled time. I'd like to open up for a few more questions, but then unfortunately we'll have to say goodbye. All right. Well, oh, we've got one more question here from Adrian. Okay, great. So, nope, she's just clarifying. She needs to share this with her team. Keith is wondering, can you, yes, so just to let everyone know, we will be sharing the presentation slides and the webinar recording after this. And we also have a unique webinar to go through more options of Bonsai happening in a week, which if you're interested, we would love for you to attend. So thank you very much, everyone. We hope you have a great rest of the week, and we appreciate your time. Bye now.